Today we're talking about ministering to single parents and single parent children and families. And we want to help people in the country to understand single adult, single parent ministry. So let's start with this question of who should run the single parent family ministry? Should it be the single adult ministry or another department in the church? And what do you think are the pros and cons of the single adult ministry running it or another ministry running it?
You know, Dennis, there's a couple different models here that can work. I'm kind of a fan of course, the single adult ministry running the single parent ministry. It can be run by a women's ministry, but I think what's going to happen if that occurs is that it's naturally going to gravitate towards a single moms and not just a single parents. Of course, you're going to exclude your single dads that are part of that population, and so you don't want to do that. Also, it's possible that maybe a counseling ministry could run that as well, but I think there could be a stigma that would be attached with that maybe, well, hey, I don't need counseling, my situation's not that severe, I just need a little help. So I think a single adult ministry within the local church body is well suited to dealing with and running and operating a single adult ministry.
And many times, a lot of single adult ministries have a hard time validating themselves in their churches right now. And if a single adult ministry wants a good entry point into a church ministry base, then they can invite a family ministry or a counseling ministry to perhaps birth their vision in their ministry for a single parenting class. And once that need becomes apparent, then they can from there launch further single adult ministries if that's an entry point that they're looking to try to accomplish.
By having the single adult ministry umbrella, the step of the single parent ministry, it just adds more of a focus. It adds more leadership to that. More resources can be given to that. So I think it's beneficial to behoove that for that to happen. Yes.
Well, it sounds like you're saying it's a good thing for the single adult ministry to run the single parent ministry, for it to spring out of that, because they will identify as single adults themselves and they're more equipped. And you include the moms and the dads, like you said, and the children. That's good. What do you think are the needs? How are the needs different? The single parent needs different than the other single adults in the group, including their children, the families and children. How are those needs different than just the single parents, or single adults who don't have children?
Well, Dennis, I'd like to address that, recognizing that in our nation today, 55% of all children are raised in a non-traditional family with a birth father, birth mother. 55% of all those children are raised in a different type of situation, and that is the single parenting, whether they be grandparenting, parenting the children. And so there is a need, and the needs, I believe, and I hear that from many singles that I'm involved with, that they are saying, oh, I wish I had your situation of not having children, and recognizing that they're carrying a heavy load. They're making the decisions. They're running their children here and there, and they're dealing with all the discipline that's required of raising and not having that support of a spouse helping that person. So there are a lot of needs single parents are feeling that stress and pressure on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, Darcy. And singles carry all the same kinds of needs that a married couple would carry in parenting skills. And the time constraints, the schedule, the money, all of that. Yeah, absolutely. That adds a lot to their plate when they're trying to do that on their own. Juggling their work schedule in addition to that, I mean, we have to really be sensitive to what single adult parents carry when it comes to their parenting obligations.
I often, when I talk to a married couple, I will ask them, what if your spouse died, or for some reason you were divorced and you were alone and you had the children? You would have to handle, as you're saying, all the home repairs, all the car repairs, all the finances, all the shopping, all the cleaning, all the cooking, everything falls, like you said. They still have the same responsibilities, but now only one person. So you're saying that the single parent has to do this all alone. Yes.
It's basically a full load with half of the resources.
Mm-hmm. Say it again, a full load?
A full load with half of the resources.
Yes. And I find that married couples don't always understand that.
I also think of them as having a real tireless, very tired responsibility and load on them. And so they're needing support. They're needing encouragement, reaffirming affirmation on being a parent, being the best parent that they can be.
Yes, they need the time, adult conversation with others, because they're always giving. They need the time with other adults.
You know, one other comment I'd like to make. I work with a lot of single adults that are going through the divorce process, and that is a critical time of crisis in their life when the church has the opportunity to touch these people like they'll never have again. Because not only do they have the parenting responsibilities, they're also dealing with the courts, additional expenses to the lawyers. They are crying out for assistance and for help. And our opportunity to show grace at that point will invite them to be part of your church down the road when they finally settle into a parenting model all by themselves and that come through that process. They'll be coming to the church out of gratitude for the grace that they received at those times.
Yeah. So if a person or a church is going to start a single parent ministry for the children, the family, the parents, what formats have you seen or would you recommend when you consider all the different formats, a video format, a lecture format, a group discussion format, what would you recommend that for people to use as a format?
Well, we certainly enjoy having the table discussion formats because it gives people a chance to interact on a personal level. And I think that's very healthy. They share their needs and they support each other with prayer and with advice. But there is also the need for some professional counselors or professional advisors. And so if you could touch your single adult parenting class with both of those, then you're going to be way ahead. But if you can't find people in the community who can speak from a professional perspective, the loving support that comes from a support group around a table and discussion will go a long ways.
So it would be good to have some teachers or speakers that have firsthand experience with single parent life issues, and then the discussion following, you're saying.
Yes.
Okay? All right?
But can I add to that, Dennis? I also believe that you don't have to have experienced everything that another person has gone through. We actually can't. But we can still be compassionate, sharing, loving, caring, and that's what people need. So even though we might not have experienced what another person has gone through, we can share love, time, just being supportive to an individual.
Yes. And I think that's a huge statement, Darcy, that you made, to be able to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to be able to go out and possibly bring your child over. I'll take care of you for a couple of hours if you have to go somewhere. I have somebody who can babysit, or I know somebody in our church that can give you professional counseling. When we can do that and we can show that we are sensitive to that need, and you're exactly right, we don't have to have gone through their shoes, but to be sensitive and wise of what their needs are.
If a church or a leader is starting a single parent family ministry, how long should that run? How many weeks? Should they meet every week? And how long should that group meet, do you think, a single parent family group?
Well, Dennis, our church provides single and parenting connect groups, and we offer those on a quarterly basis, and the classes meet weekly, and I think that it's a great opportunity for those people to go to those groups because there's a starting point and there's a finishing point. And so they can go to that class, build relationships, get to know other people, provide the support, and receive the support that they need. But then in turn, since there's an ending point, when that class ends, they can move on to another one.
So how many weeks would you recommend they go? 6, 8, 10? Or is
We
it
recommend
indefinite?
12.
12 weeks.
12 weeks, because usually the curriculum that we have and the resources that are available are about 12 to 13 weeks.
I see. Well, you brought up resources, the curriculum. What do you use, or what would you recommend that people use? What's out there?
Well, you know, Dennis, at our church, we have had great experience with the single and parenting curriculum from Church Initiative. You can find that on the web at singleandparenting.org. And it's just a great curriculum to use. As Craig was saying earlier, it has that lecture format. They have different professionals and speakers, pastors, just the whole gambit of experience across the board that speak into the lives of single parents, and they come at it from an approach that making the single parent and helping the single parent to be healthy in and of themselves, and the belief that that is going to basically trickle down or affect the child, and it definitely will. There are some parenting strategies that are mentioned in the video lectures, but they also talk about time management. They talk about finances. They talk about healthy relationships and how to guard or protect your children when you're dating, and just a really, really practical curriculum. And then the great thing about that is there's a video section or session, but then after that there's time for discussion around the tables, and we do find that is so valuable to have that interaction, have that discussion around the table. So single and parenting is one that we've used with great success.
I've heard of that, and I know groups using that. When it comes to the discussion, do you recommend people stay in a same discussion group for the whole 13 weeks, or can they jump around to other tables? What do you see there? What are the pros and cons?
Well, if you're trying to make connection point with people that come to your singles ministry for long term, you want them to get to know other people in the church. The support that comes from having a friend who's walking with you into the same difficulties will engender them to your ministry and to the church at large, and that's what you want. You want long-term connection. That's going to take some time, so we recommend people stay with the same group if they possibly can for the duration of the class.
And we don't really need to be too concerned, do we, about the ages, because single parents are in their 20s, 30s, 40s raising kids, but the big issue that brings them together is the parenting issue. So you could have 20s and 30s and 40s in any group, or a mix of any of the discussion groups, whether it's 10 people or 50 people in the total large group, but you break it down and have all ages. Okay.
Dennis, a good example of that is at our church, we did a class specifically for single moms, and it was by Lori Little, and it was called Hope and Help for the Single Mom. And her web address is hope4singlemoms.com if you're interested. And the common denominator was these were single moms, but they ranged from like late 20s all the way up to like 50s or 60s, but they loved it because some of the older ones could help the younger ones, some of the newer ones had fresh ideas, and they loved it. It was a great class.
You mentioned 50s, 60s. They would probably be grandparents, right? Can grandparents, single grandparents, come and participate in this? Do they have something to offer? You think?
I would say yes, they do, because we find in our society that a lot of single grandparents are also helping raise kids.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, a lot of single grandparents are turning around raising their grandkids these days.
Yeah. All right, here's another question as we're talking about the ministry to single parents. Would you invite them to your other single adult activities and group meetings, or would you just want them to stay in that single parent ministry for 13 weeks? And even after that, would you invite them after that to your other single classes?
I think that's a good question, Dennis, because as a singles ministry, that goes part and part with the umbrella of the umbrella factor with that. To be able for the single parent to know that they have other resources out there, to be able to go out and to be able to share time with other folks, to be able to spend time in communication and fellowship with them, and also to know that there's another ministry there available for them. So I think that that's very important.
Yeah.
And Dennis, could I add too that I think it's really important. I was raised by a single mom, and one thing that we encounter a lot is that single parents need adult interaction with other adults, because a lot of their time is invested in their children, and they're having children dialogue throughout the day, and they need that interaction with other single adults as well. And so one thing we do is we provide free childcare for them so that they can come, relax, get refreshed, have interaction with other adults, and know that their children are being well taken care of.
Yeah, and if your single ministry is not designed to simply be a hookup place where people find others that they're going to finally end up dating and marrying, if your single ministry is instead designed to be a healthy fellowship place, a micro church in the church, then you don't have to worry about inviting anybody who is going through a crisis in their life to come to your single adult ministry, because on your weekly basis, that is, because you know that they're going to find support and help, And if you tell your single adults in those ministries that your ministry is to reach out to the hurting single parents who are going to be coming here, or the people that are going through a divorce here, you will inspire your single adult ministry to another level other than just being a dating relationship-oriented ministry. They'll give them a purpose, and that will go a long way to really in giving your ministry to your purpose to your whole ministry to the church.
And we do know, of course, that divorce is one big cause of single parenting, but there are single parents who have never married. There are single parents who are widowed, and they'll come to this single parent ministry too.
Absolutely.
So we want to, of course, be inclusive of those. Let's move a little bit to the topic of leadership, of running the single parent family ministry. What type of leaders or helpers and workers is someone going to need to actually run this 13-week, if they do the 13-week video discussion? What kind of workers, helpers would they need?
Well, if you have a passion for parenting, whether you are a single parent or have been a single parent or not, if you understand the challenge that parents face, if you have grace and can show grace to others, then you are qualified to be a leader and a teacher in a single parenting class. Because being single and parenting doesn't mean that parenting is different. It just means that you got less to give to the job. You can speak into a parenting issue even if you've never been a single parent yourself. I know that many would like to have single parents teaching the class, and that may be optimum. But I would hate to see somebody not start a single parenting class simply because they can't find a single parent who they feel is healthy enough to be able to do it. You can do it otherwise.
And the video you mentioned, or Jody mentioned, Single and Parenting by Church Initiative, that video has qualified teachers, speakers, counselors, leaders who understand the issues of single parenting. And some of them may not have been single parents, but they relate because they deal with those specific issues. And you can let them do the teaching, and then the hard part, and then the discussion leaders, wouldn't they be leaders you would need? Discussion leaders at each group or table?
Right.
What any other workers or helpers you would need in a single parent family?
Well, some of the behind the role places like hospitality, for example. What a huge benefit it is to have somebody who'll simply say, God has not given me the gift to be able to speak in front of a crowd, but I will be in charge of hospitality. I'll bring the food, or organize, set up the table. All of the various things that go into running any kind of ministry. Those people are valuable.
Craig, I'm curious with Kevin and Jody, your experience in being involved with single parenting. As far as the child care goes, could you enlighten us on what you found to work really well, what was successful?
Sure. Well, at our church, we are blessed to have our children's and youth ministries run in conjunction with our Wednesday night connect groups, which is when we offer a lot of these type classes like single and parenting and divorce care. And so it's great to be able to take care of the children. You've got to really do that. If you're going to effectively reach single parents, you've got to show them that you can be a good steward of their child during that hour and a half that you have with them. They want to make sure that their children are being ministered to as well. So we have our programs on Wednesday nights, our children's and youth ministry that we plug, of course, junior and senior high kids into elementary school age. We even have some programs for younger childs and even all the way down to a nursery. So if you're set up that way within a local church, I would encourage you to capitalize and use those times strategically. Maybe it's a midweek service, or it might even be some connect groups that you have going on a Sunday morning, but use those times to your advantage to where you don't have to provide childcare. There's already something going on. If you need to provide childcare, then by all means do that, but the key is you're going to have to understand you have to take care of these kids. If you don't, then you're not going to earn the opportunity to speak into the life of the parent.
One of the things that we found was beneficial to be able to utilize the youth of our church, to be able to utilize their giftings and make them available if they are able to help and assist with the child care. And then also, it's not going to be free in a sense because the youth want to be rewarded too. So how do we do that? We can give them a stipend possibly for a church ministry maybe that they're wanting to get involved with. maybe pay them some type of stipend for a camp that they're looking to go to. So once the youth that are available are looking to do that for you, they realize that there's some benefit to them, and then they would be more than happy, I would guess, to be able to do something.
You're referring to children. What ages of children would feasibly come to a single-parent family ministry? And how do we break down, do we put them all in one group from birth to 10 or 12, or do we have different ages, groups for them? And is there any curriculum or targeted help that we can give these classes of kids? So what would you say to that?
Dennis, in our church, we have all the ages, from like birth all the way up through high school, and they're broken down, as Kevin said, like by the age group that's already in place by our children's ministry.
Yeah.
So they automatically are ushered into their appropriate age group. But one thing I would recommend in particular for divorced parents is there is by church initiatives, there's divorce care. And then if churches are able, they have divorce care for kids. And so when the parent is in the class receiving the resources and information about how to deal with being a divorced single parent, the children are the same night being educated on the very same topic. It's age appropriate, and then they can go home at night and discuss it and create even a deeper bond.
Divorce care for kids. How many weeks does that go?
I believe it's 12 or 13 weeks, the same amount of time that the adult's teaching us.
That's right.
Okay.
Dennis, if I could share, quite often we think of single parent, it's the woman who is the single parent. But there could also be the situation where you'd have the father who would be the single parent. That could be incorporated into any one of these programs. Where I work, we also have a program called Fatherhood. It's all about helping fathers be the best that they can be as a father. And so we have staff that are just connecting with fathers and supporting them, encourage them. Or if a family does not have a father in it, they're working on saying, let's encourage that family to talk about who could be that male role model, to be involved, to be supportive, to encourage those children in that family.
Good point about single fathers. We'll have a percentage of them coming. And I think of a ministry in Florida that is national now. They have a site. It's Dads and the number 4, Life. Dads for Life. And they provide resources and training, etc. So we want to be inclusive, single moms and single dads. That's for sure. What about food?
I was just
Beverage.
about to ask you that, Kevin and Jody, since you all lead that ministry at your church. For some reason, when you had mentioned fathers, I thought about food. What happens to that? When you all are meet or you have your destination fathers come out, do you all provide, what do you do with food? Do you provide food at these functions?
Yeah, actually, Adam, we do. It's amazing how a 200-pound guy can hide behind a little 16-ounce cup of coffee. But we find that so true. It just kind of loosens people up. And Jody and her team have done a great job during our single and parenting class of providing refreshments and as Craig mentioned earlier, hospitality. And that's always a part. We try to have someone welcome at the door. We always have a snack table and some cake or some cookies and some coffee as well. And all that just goes to make them feel at home, to make them feel appreciated and accepted, and to just kind of break the ice. And we find that goes a long way.
And one thing we also do is at our Saturday night gatherings, we always have free refreshments in the back of the room where they can go get, it's not a meal, but it's snacks, coffee, drinks. Because people they tend to get a plate of food, and for some reason it makes them more comfortable in interacting with other people.
It's good.
When
Jesus always met around food.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a biblical idea to
Yes.
provide food. It's
Yes.
just a wonderful thing.
Kind of till we eat again. When we talk about food, it makes me think of cost. We've already mentioned the resources, single and parenting. By the way, our office in the National AG office has another book that's a 13-week book. If you want to ask about that, it's called The Single Parent Journey. But the resources, the food, possibly the name tags, what are the costs involved, and how do we minimize those costs? How can we actually run this program? Do you charge the single parents to come, or do you not charge them? What do you think?
Well, some of your costs are hard costs that you can't control. The purchase prices of the materials, and you control the costs that you can control. either through donations or sponsorships, or as Adam said, you allow other departments in the church to sponsor those pieces of your ministry. That's simply done by raising the profile and of the ministry in the church, and that can be done through simply sharing the need, casting the vision, letting people know that the gifts that they have in culinary arts, simple stuff even, doesn't have to be complicated. I think we overdo some of these things, thinking that the challenge is bigger than it has to be. A cup of coffee and cookies goes a long ways to setting an atmosphere that is casual and comfortable.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is so very true, Craig. If someone is willing to invest the time and put the effort in, you would be very surprised how many stores, restaurants would give you and donate food, whether it's the donuts, whether it's coffee, whether it's a gift card. Here's a gift card for $25 that you can purchase milk, that you can purchase spaghetti, which is a low-cost item to make, and then use that to be able to have food. And as you mentioned so well, that's where Jesus met Moses and did most of his work. Who wouldn't want to do that?
So it sounds to me like it would be better not to charge the single parents, since most of them don't have money anyway, to pay $30 to come to a 13-week seminar. Be nice if we wouldn't have just raise the money or get the food for free, and try and have the church to pay for the curriculum.
Yeah, I think so. And I think by not charging them, I think that you extend a lot of grace towards their already difficult budget situation that they have. That doesn't mean that you don't have to ask folks who have already gone through the class that are singles if they would like to sponsor another single parent through the class.
Yeah.
They see the value of it. They will be far more inclined to pay at the back end than they were at the front end of the ministry.
Yeah.
You know, Dennis, one of the things we do is we do offer a scholarship to the class. We do ask our single parents to pay a small fee. It's not very much at all, just because we believe that they should be self-invested to some degree in what they're doing. But if they're not able to meet that, we do offer the scholarship that we don't want any single parent to be turned away from the help that they need because of a financial reason.
Yeah. This has been a good discussion. One last question I think we should just touch on is how does the single parent ministry interact or intertwine with the larger ministry of the church, the mainstream of the church, the whole church life? Any comments you want to make there for people who are thinking of starting a ministry for single parents?
Yeah, we are in an age where everything is being redefined. Marriage is being redefined, singleness is being redefined, the family unit is being redefined. Everything is under the microscope of being redefined. And I think that the single adult ministry can and should be redefining what family ministry is. And they can speak into the church at large and say the family now exists of single parents. And let's be part of the redefinition process in a positive way. Since we already exist in a culture that is doing this, let us have our input and create a redefinition of singleness and speak to that, train to that.
Absolutely. That's powerful, Craig. You know, the word that comes to my mind is community. Just the power of community, and what we need to be providing to single parents and their kids is community. When they come in the church door, it doesn't need to be segregated over here to this little group or this department, and that's just where they go. It needs to be a church-wide acceptance, and the more that we can pull together, the more that we can impact these families and just to experience the love and the hope of Christ as they come in and to be accepted across the board. And the more that we do that, the better off we'll be in being effective to single parents and their children.
I'd like to challenge married couples and other family types to, quote, family the single parent family as a verb, not just a noun, family them. That's a biblical concept. And so let's challenge our married families and couples to invite a single parent out to lunch, take them out, give them 3 hours to have alone with a parent, to take their kids and give the parent 3 hours. That's familying them, helping them with home repairs and car repairs. It's a huge need, huge need. Well, we have addressed a lot of issues. This has been good. Thanks for your input about single parent family ministry. It's a big need, a growing need. About 3 out of 10 in the country, 3 out of 10 families are single parent families. And we hope this has been helpful to you. as you're thinking about starting a single parent family ministry. God bless you as you go forward.